Getting so much closer to the actual start of Duke basketball season. Next week, we've got an exhibition game that we'll be able to break down and so much more. Right now, Duke basketball picked to win the ACC preseason, number 6 in the entire country. A lot of hype building around Jon Scheyer's team.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. So great to have you here with us today on Friday, October 17th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. We are proudly a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, our good friend Hugh Straine is here from Durham. We're going to talk about the ACC preseason polls again with Duke picked to win the league. We'll look at the all-ACC teams that are there. Duke picked 6th nationally in the preseason AP poll. And then, of course, we've got thoughts on Duke's game coming up tomorrow against Georgia Tech. What a massive Saturday college football game, noon Eastern kickoff when Duke will host the Yellow Jackets, both teams undefeated in ACC play. All of that and more coming up here today on this week's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to our show for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Again, available for you each and every day. Also, leave us a 5-star rating and written review on the Apple Podcast platform. Watch our show daily on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share it with your friends. We appreciate all of your support. So, without further ado, here he is, Hugh Straine, back with me once again. My good friend from Durham, getting set for another basketball season. We talked about Duke being picked 6th in the AP poll to open up the year nationally. Here we are, Duke picked to win the ACC, and I think this is absolutely the right decision when you look at what Duke's been able to do over the last couple of years under head coach Jon Scheyer, how down the league has been. Duke has been the one known year after year, and I think that's certainly deserving of this top honor.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other school you really could have put ahead of Duke. Jon Scheyer has won 2 ACC championships in his first 3 years with the Blue Devils, and Duke is entering the season as the clear-cut most talented team in the country. I thought there would be a little more debate who would be at the top between Duke and Louisville. It's really Duke and Louisville at the top then, in my opinion, at least, a pretty hard drop-off. But Duke got 34 of the first-place votes. Louisville only 15, so very clear-cut favorite to win the conference is Duke. But, hey, coming off a season – you're 19-1 in ACC action, again, in a very down year for the ACC. Sure, you lose the entire starting 5, but again, you rebuild that roster, and it's once again the most talented in the ACC, so no surprises here in terms of the ACC preseason poll. Duke at the top and Louisville up next. Everyone else is kind of in a jumble, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Connor O'Neill and I of Devils Illustrated talked about this on yesterday's show about those first-place votes, right? You mentioned Duke getting 34 of them from the media. Typically, Hugh, it seems like there are some years where you've got 2 or 3 extra teams that are receiving a handful of votes, right? You'll randomly get this squad that one person out there thought would win the league. Kind of different to only see 2 horses in the race, so to speak, for who's going to win the overall league, and then the vast majority of those votes going in our favor, going in Duke basketball's direction.
Yeah, I think Duke and Louisville are very clearly the top 2 teams in the league. I think Duke has more talent, but Louisville is more, I don't want to say set up for success, but in today's era of college basketball, experience is everything. And Pat Kelsey went out and brought in an elite transfer class, complemented that with Mikel Brown Jr., who's got a chance to be the best freshman point guard in the country. So from a pure talent standpoint, Duke certainly is at the top. And then you mix in Jon Scheyer and how storied that program's been. I think you have to put Duke at the top, but very intrigued with Louisville heading into the season and really thought there would be more debate as who's at the top. And then, the 3, 4, 5 spots you mentioned, I think it's NC State, it's Virginia, and it's North Carolina, but I think it's very murky. I think a lot of things can go in a lot of different directions outside of Duke and Louisville, but Duke and Louisville are certainly the top 2 teams, not surprised whatsoever. I'd be shocked to see another first-place vote because I just think both are very far and ahead against the rest of the conference.
Well, and hopefully it goes beyond 4 or 5 teams in the league. Like the entire ACC has got to be better. That's why they dropped it down from 20 games to 18 games. Everybody wants to kind of build each other up. But what's been so clear is Duke's talent level, bringing in the top-rated freshman class and all the returners that Duke has. When you look at this conference, when you look at the sport, we're going to repeat ourselves over and over until we start actually playing this season, Hugh. But you just don't see it elsewhere where 5 meaningful players are coming back to a squad and no one left to go into the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's just incredible how year in and year out, Duke just brings in talent after losing almost all of its talent. But from Coach K's era, especially towards the end of his career, into John Shire's era, Shire was an assistant under Coach K. He knows how the system works. If you work your program around elite freshmen, those elite freshmen will last 1 year almost all of the time. Sure, there's exceptions. And maybe when Isaiah Evans originally committed to Duke, we didn't expect to see a year or two out of him. But here we are, and it's kind of just how it works. And John Shire knows how to operate a program with that. I'm sure he wanted to get a few more veterans in the transfer portal, had that with Cedric Howard. That obviously didn't work out. But I think a very exciting balance. And again, just the talent level is out of this world.
So Duke picked to win the league. We've got the preseason projected order of finish on the screen here from ACC Tip-Off Media Day votes. 49 ballots. Duke receiving 34 of the first place votes, totaling up to 866 points. So good distance there from them in Louisville. It's North Carolina, NC State, and Virginia that round out your top 5. You've got Cal, Stanford, and Boston College hanging out in the basement of the ACC for this upcoming season. But really, Hugh, it's like that 6 to 12 range that really needs to generate a lot of buzz. And for a lot of people, it's a jumbled mess, right? It's hard to pick of those teams who's going to really click. The goal is ultimately for the ACC is that several of them make a big run and you can get a high number back into the NCAA tournament. Yeah,
the ACC has just been a down conference over the last few seasons, had 4 bids last season. It hasn't had more than 5 bids into the tournament since 2021. So I think if you're the ACC, you're just looking to see 4, 5, 6 teams as an absolute win of getting in the tournament. And you mentioned the 6 through 12 range in the league. I really think the 3 through 10-ish range, even 11 and 12, I think that's all relatively the same ceiling. I'm not super bought in on North Carolina at number 3. NC State and Virginia, I'm super excited about. But a lot of those teams in that 6 through 12 range, like Virginia Tech, like SMU, like Miami, like Syracuse, I think can make a lot of noise and have a lot more potential than maybe the votes here show. But super excited about the SEC this season. I think it's all around the most talented it's been in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Super excited to see what they can do. I expect 5, 6, potentially 7 bids out of the conference this March.
Yeah, it'd be big if they could get to that 7 or 8 number in the ACC. The SEC, of course, set the record last year with 14 teams making it on Selection Sunday. I don't think we're heading for that direction, but any improvement from what you've seen over the last couple would be good. We know, obviously, what Miami's going to be able to bring to the table with Jay Lucas taking over in his first season. And then again, for people looking at the numbers on the screen with us, Hugh, look at 7 where Clemson is, followed by Miami, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Wake Forest. Those 5 spots right there in the middle are separated by just 100 points. I mean, clearly everybody is of varying opinions with who could rise out of the crop here with these teams.
Yeah, I think the middle of the league, like you said, within that 7 to 12 range, I think are all teams with very similar ceilings, but not necessarily mediocre ceilings. I could see Miami cracking in the AP top 25 poll. Jay Lucas is bringing in Shelton Henderson, who obviously decommitted to Duke to follow him, but he has been getting lots of praise throughout the preseason. Looks like a highly talented recruit. He actually dropped a good bit in the final 24/7 sports rankings, dropped from a 5-star to a 4-star, but he's been looking great. Malik Renew, Trey Donaldson, Ernest Uday Jr. from TCU. Jay Lucas has done a phenomenal job. Miami's just one example of a team that's not generating a lot of hype right now, but I could certainly see cracking the AP poll at some point, and I expect them to be a tournament team.
Excited to see what Duke basketball will do. Excited to see the ACC as a whole play out. We know that Duke is going to be led this season by the play of Cam Boozer and Isaiah Evans. Those guys were recognized by the league ahead of this upcoming season. We'll talk a little bit about those honors in just a moment when Locked On Blue Devils continues. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. That's right. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. You can join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Supply House is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The show today is also brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, which means it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it all down. For Duke football this season, Chandler Rivers has been delivering in such a big way. Defensively, you don't want to throw his way or he'll walk away with an interception, pass deflections. He does it all for that Duke defense. When the pressure is on, Chandler Rivers comes through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Chandler Rivers is on a streak. And just like Chandler Rivers delivered for the Duke football team, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. DoorDash is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. We keep going here on today's episode. I've got Hugh Straine here with me from Ball Durham talking about Duke basketball ahead of the upcoming 2025-2026 season. ACC tip-off has come and gone. The media has gathered. They've put all their collective heads together and have given us the preseason poll, have given us first and second preseason teams. And it has been a college basketball world that's been filled with conversation around Cameron Boozer and the hype that he's got going into the year, Hugh.
Yeah, well, before he even steps on the floor, he's already littered with accolades. Obviously, all ACC preseason first team. He's the preseason rookie of the year in conference and was second in voting behind NC State's Darian Williams for ACC preseason player of the year, all before even stepping on the court. I think the whole country is excited to see him. I think he's potentially the most talented freshman in the country, potentially the most complete freshman in the entire country. There's kind of the big three with BYU's AJ DeBonson and then Kansas Darian Peterson. There's going to be debate all year long on who the number one pick is going to be, likely between those three guys. But I think Cam Boozer has a chance to be the best freshman in the country, definitely has a chance to be the number one overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. We talked about it last time. I think 20 point and 10 rebound per game averages are not that crazy of a take whatsoever for him this season. You also mentioned it earlier on this show, JJ. Duke will go as far as Cam Boozer takes them. He's already bringing in the awards. He's going to be special. I just can't wait to see him on the floor.
Yeah, Mikael Brown Jr. at Louisville, Caleb Wilson at North Carolina, and then teammates of Cameron Boozer are who people are highlighting kind of as the top freshmen within the conference. As we look at that ACC Freshman of the Year award, year after year after year, it feels like this is just a trophy that belongs in Durham at all times. It feels like Cam Boozer certainly going to be the best freshman in the conference. He can do just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, him and Mikael Brown Jr. are clearly the two best freshmen heading the ACC. I'm super excited to watch Mikael Brown in Pat Kelsey's offense. He's going to be running the show with so much talent around him. But again, Cam Boozer is going to be doing the same thing. I'm super excited to watch them go head-to-head twice. I think Mikael Brown is a prolific scoring guard. He can pass and defend. But Cam Boozer is just elite on all three levels of the floor. And the talent both guys are surrounded by, I'm super excited to see them progress as the season goes on. Mikael Brown Jr. was also included on the All-ACC preseason first team. They were the two freshmen on that list. Caleb Wilson on that second team. But I'm just super excited to watch Brown and Boozer, clearly the two best freshmen. Super excited to see them get to play each other twice.
Yeah, for our YouTube audience here, we've got the preseason All-ACC teams up on the screen. Cameron Boozer from Duke on the first team, along with Louisville's Mikael Brown Jr. and Louisville's Ryan Conwell. Darian Williams from NC State, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame make out the first team. And then second team, how about J.J. Starling from Syracuse, Boopie Miller from SMU, North Carolina freshman Caleb Wilson, Georgia Tech big Baydongo, and then Duke's Isaiah Evans. I love Showtime Slim getting this recognition, Hugh.
Yeah, he deserves it. Has a chance to be the best shooter, not only in the ACC, but in the country. I think he's got a chance to be one of the most prolific all-around scorers based on what I've seen from him as of late. He attacks the basket. He obviously has the most confident outside shot, I think, in the entire conference. That guy doesn't shy away. I mean, at 6'7", he's a good defender. He's got to put on a little bit of weight, but just so much potential for Isaiah Evans this season. Absolutely deserves all ACC second team recognition. I think absolutely has a chance to be an all ACC first team performer by season's end. He's just one of these talented guys on this Duke roster that will be on these lists come end of the year.
I mean, the game that he's got, so much of his shot diet was from three-point range last season. I'm ready to see him kind of factor in other areas of his game from a scoring perspective, and then how he can facilitate, set up teammates for success. And what are we going to get out of Isaiah Evans on the defensive end of the floor? I know that was a big reason why it took him a little bit longer out of the gates to get on the floor last season. John Shire said as much. The offense has always been there. But if Isaiah Evans can be a versatile defender for Duke, that's only going to benefit Duke's overall game. And then for Showtime Slim specifically, if he does that, a whole lot easier to earn first-team honors.
Yeah, and I think if he was a little bit more advanced of a defender as a freshman, despite playing limited minutes, he would have been a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. He is the prototype 3-and-D wing that an NBA roster wants. He's 6'6", 6'7". He's long. If he could defend a little better, especially on the perimeter, certainly think he would have been a first-round pick, maybe even lottery status, but just how good his outside shot is. So he displays his defensive potential, maybe improves the passing a tiny bit. He'll be a lottery guy come 2026 NBA draft, along with the 3 or 4 other Duke guys that also have that potential.
Feels like if we look at this, again, the ACC just put out first and second team honors ahead of the season. If we kept going down the roster, tons of chatter at large right now about what Duke's going to get out of Patrick Gongba II. Feels like he's a guy that by season's end, don't be surprised at all if his name comes up in one of these conversations, especially if Duke puts together a really impressive year. Big Pat is another guy that everybody wants to talk about right now.
Yeah, he's kind of come out of nowhere over the last 2 or 3 weeks as a major breakout candidate in ACC basketball. His body looks reshaped. His athleticism looks like a completely on another level that even shocked me on Countdown of Craziness. But his defensive potential is there. At 6'11", he can run the floor. He's already establishes himself as an elite rim protector. If he can diversify his offensive game and he can move his feet and work around defenders as opposed to just being traditionally a back to the basket guy, he can certainly be a first-round NBA draft pick come 2026 time. I actually saw a mock draft over the summer by, I believe, Bleacher Report, and he was slotted at the end of the first round, so they called it before anyone else did. I was shocked to see him as a first-round guy, and he's nothing about his game is going to necessarily blow you away, but he does so many things right. And his footwork, based on what we saw in that small sample size, has gotten so much better. I'm super excited to see what he can do down low because Duke's center depth is not very deep. They're going to need a lot of him. He's going to need to stay healthy, but he looks healthy, especially with that lower body.
Duke's ready to rock and roll. It's going to be a really fun game coming up for this football team on Saturday, and then also the basketball team ahead of a new season with guys like Pat Gongba, Isaiah Evans, and Cameron Boozer set to set the tone here for Duke. All right, I mentioned the football game because I'm teasing myself here. We got to go ahead and take one more timeout, and then on the other side, we are getting set for Duke's showdown with Georgia Tech on the gridiron. It's going to be a big-time game coming up for the Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Rugiet. You've probably already heard of Viagra and Cialis, maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the difference. The effects can last up to 36 hours. Confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. Rugiet is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The show today is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here. We saw a really fun and exciting Thursday night football game last night between the Steelers and Bengals, and FanDuel's got offers that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What are you waiting for? go ahead and get started right now. We take a look at Duke football, favored in Vegas right now at FanDuel by 1.5 points over Georgia Tech for tomorrow's game. In the NFL here in our state, you've also got the Carolina Panthers favored by 1.5 points over the New York Jets right now over on FanDuel. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the app today and get started. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Hugh Straine joins me here on Locked On Blue Devils. We're talking about Duke football now as they get set for a game against number 12 Georgia Tech tomorrow, noon Eastern kickoff at Wallace Wade Stadium. Both teams 3-0 in ACC play. Where do you want to start here, Hugh? When you start to look at this game, what jumps out to you?
Well, what jumps out to me is, again, like you mentioned, JJ, 3-0. Both teams are two of three teams, including Virginia, that are 3-0 in the ACC. Duke has 2 losses out of conference. Essentially, nothing else matters because any out-large college football playoff hope is gone with those losses to Illinois and Tulane. Duke is 3-0, but doesn't have that signature win yet. There's really no win that makes the committee think anything of Duke. They've taken down NC State, California, and Syracuse. 3 solid wins, fine wins, 2 of them on the road, but nothing that's going to jump out at you. This is the opportunity where Duke can officially turn this season around and take down an extremely talented Georgia Tech offense. This is a massive opportunity for the defense to step up with one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country in Haynes King, and just a massive resume boosting opportunity that Duke has to take advantage of if it wants to potentially bring home an ACC championship. I consider this a must-win game regardless of how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, when you see a game like this on the schedule and knowing where Duke is at in the year, it feels like if you win this thing, you can do it. Like it becomes something that this team's going to build more and more confidence down the stretch with those final ACC games that they would have after the fact. Georgia Tech has had close games already. I know they are undefeated. They had the game against Wake Forest where there wasn't a offsides called against them that would have given Wake Forest the first down and the ball game would have been over. So they've been close to being defeated before. Now it's a chance for Duke to give Georgia Tech their first loss of the season.
Yeah, well, that's why this game is so important, JJ. Like you mentioned, Georgia Tech's vulnerable, and this becomes a real thing for Duke if you can get a win over the number 12 team in the country, according to the AP poll. There's really no team in the ACC, maybe with the exception of Miami, that's unbeatable. Reports came out today that Cade Klubnik is now injured. Virginia is a fairly vulnerable squad, and Duke is right there at the top with the rest of the squad. So if you can get a home victory over a top 15 AP poll team, again, like you said, bringing the first ACC championship to Durham since 1989 officially becomes a real possibility. And Duke has the offensive firepower to do it. They've averaged almost 43 points scored per game over this 3-game win streak, outscored their last 3 opponents 128-57. They've been lopsided wins, again, not against marquee competition necessarily, but that's why this matchup is so important and why Duke absolutely needs this to make this season happen to the best of the capabilities that can possibly be. This win is it's a huge opportunity to really light this season on fire, and also a massive opportunity for Darian Mensah to prove he is one of the top quarterbacks in the country, because despite recent play and he's been stuffing the stat sheet, he's still nowhere to be seen on any sort of Heisman Trophy list. His odds are still way down there. I believe they're plus 20,000 right now. Picking up a big time win, that's going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to rise, and Duke will find themselves, rank Duke at that point. If they're 5-2, they beat Georgia Tech. This is a team that deserves to be ranked going into the bye week, and then Clemson right after that. Darian Mensah is draft eligible. Like, that's what I keep going back to in my head is, you want to see this Duke team continue to climb a little bit, but as that happens, we'll hear Mensah's name more and more at the next level, particularly as there have been so many quarterback questions in the sport. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, Hugh, and I don't want that to happen. However, I don't want that to mean Duke has to lose to prevent Darian Mensah's name for climbing. It's kind of a tricky thing to battle there.
Yeah, and that's a decision for Mensah to make. I don't know his contract details, but he did sign a 2-year contract with Duke. So I don't know what that entails, if that contract says he must stay for 2 seasons or if he has the option to leave and opt out. If he were to enter the 2026 NFL draft, maybe he looks at a guy like Drew Aller, who had that potential to go 2025 and potentially be the number 1 overall pick, heads into this season, and it couldn't have been more of a disaster. He gets hurt. Penn State is an absolute mess. He looks, frankly, not very good. He might have been a UDFA if he entered after this year. Clearly not going to do that up to this point. But that's an interesting conversation to have. I'd be surprised if he left. I'd frankly be shocked because he did sign a 2-year deal. I assume Duke wouldn't let him leave that easy, especially with how well he's performing this season. And I think just his development with Manny Diaz has gone so well already. Developing for 2 years, maybe he's at the top 5 pick range, top 10 pick range. Yeah. Just together 2 years of solid ACC football. That's an interesting conversation to have. And maybe as the season goes on, if he stays atop these numbers and was like one of the top quarterbacks in the country, who knows?
I can already see the comments. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's win this game coming up on Saturday and then start to worry about some of those things down the line. I'm with you, though. He's got to appear on these Heisman odds, keep climbing if Darian Mensah plays so well like he has been. What makes this offense so good is week by week, Hugh, we have no idea who's going to click right there. The Andrew Anthony games, and then you've got Cooper Barkett going crazy. You look at Quayshawn Brown's got the most touchdowns. Samir Hagens finds the end zone all the time. And then now we've got a run game to kind of complement what Mensah's doing as well. You mentioned the last couple of games, Duke's averaging over 40 points on offense. It's so much fun because you truly have no idea who's going to be the next touchdown scorer.
Right. And the biggest problem for Duke football as a whole last year was the lack of a run game. It had probably the worst run game as a whole in the entire ACC in this season. That has completely changed, which just makes Darian Mensah's life so much easier because he can use his legs. But last season on third down, Duke passed it almost every single time from third and mid, third and short. It was so predictable. Now that's not the case. Rookie Nate Shepard has been absolutely fantastic. He's completely taken this backfield by storm, was recently recognized as a preseason freshman or a midseason freshman All-American selection. He's been one of the top rushers in the entire ACC and has completely reshaped his run attack for Duke. And then again, there's just so many weapons in the receiving game. Quayshawn Brown has come on as of late. Cooper Barkett has been unbelievably consistent, has the chance to be the first 1,000-yard receiver for Duke since Jamison Crowder in 2014. And Andre Anthony as the wide receiver 3 is just an extreme talent to have. It's one of the best wide receiver cores in the ACC. And again, it's a chance to really prove itself against this Georgia Tech squad and put a marquee win on the resume.
All right, so I'm looking at Darian Mensah so far, just his overall performance. So much of it is done through the air passing. That's what he's known to do. He can't extend plays like we've talked about. He's mobile enough to get out of the pocket, look downfield, buy extra time. Running, though, when you compare him and Malik Murphy going into the year, I was expecting a little bit more out of Mensah. Not to complain. It's hard to fault a guy who's top 5 in the country in so many statistical categories. I'm more so saying I'm kind of shocked. We're halfway through the year, Hugh, and there's not one rushing touchdown that we've seen from Darian Mensah. Like, I would have lost that bet. If I placed one before the year that halfway through the season, will we see a quarterback rushing touchdown? I thought surely we would have seen one of those by now, but that just hasn't been a part of the game.
Yeah, just he doesn't need to. He is such a talented arm, and he can throw downfield so accurately. He's only gotten better with deep balls as the season's gone on. And Duke has so many weapons. It brought back almost its entire offensive line from a season ago. It's one of the top O-lines in the entire ACC. He's comfortable in the pocket. He's a great pocket passer. He just doesn't really need to run. And with 3 backs that Duke can use in Anderson Castle, Nate Shepard, and Jaquez Moore, what's working right now is working, and they're not messing with it. The air raid is working. Jonathan Brewer likes a quick air raid type system, and that's been working with Darian Mensah much better than it ever worked with Malik Murphy. Not to negatively say anything about Malik Murphy. He's great. Darian Mensah, it just seems to be working a lot better. And then with this run game, it's just what's happening to make things happen. You know, you average 43 points a game over a 3-game stretch, you let it happen, and you figure out what works and you stick with it. And that's what OC Jonathan Brewer and head coach Manny Diaz have been doing. And the offense is shining better than it did, much better than it did through the first half of the season.
Big time stuff from Duke football, and we're hopeful for a big time game from the Blue Devils coming up on Saturday. Coming up tomorrow, noon Eastern from Wallace Wade Stadium when they take on Georgia Tech. Hugh, I know that you will have plenty of coverage as the site expert over there at Ball Durham. How can people best support you?
So balldurham.com, that's BALLDURHAM.com. Everything you need to know about Duke sports, basketball, football, recruiting, professional, former Blue Devils, anything you need to know, go check that site out. New content every single day. We appreciate the support from the pod every single day and the support from JJ. Go check out balldurham.com. New stories every day. Never miss a beat with us.
He's on X at Hugh Straine. Also check out ball_Durham on social media as well. Hugh, it is lovely seeing you, my friend. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Appreciate it, JJ.
All right, that's Hugh Straine joining us here on today's show. And that brings us to a close. Another week in the books here on Locked On Blue Devils. Let's go get them this weekend. Let's go get that win over Georgia Tech tomorrow inside Wallace Wade Stadium. Please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Special shout out to all of the everydayers out there. Thanks for being a part of our Locked On Blue Devils community. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.